Hello and welcome to Talk to Al Jazeera. I am Mohammed Adow in Entebbe, Uganda. For 25 years, just one man has occupied the Ugandan seat of power, the State House behind me. 66-year-old Yoweri Museveni, who seized power while scoffing at African leaders who stay long in power. Today, he has joined the League of African Presidents, whose only wish is to remain in office forever. Mr. President, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera. You're seeking a fresh 5-year term. And what is it that you want to deliver in those 5 years that you did not deliver in the quarter of a century you've been in power?
Every year we add something new. In the first phase of our government, we had to cause economic recovery because the economy had collapsed completely. That minimum economic recovery has been achieved, and we have built a base from where we are going to achieve a middle income status in the next 5 years. Therefore, every 5 years brings something new.
And are 25 years not enough? Why can't you groom a younger person with fresh ideas?
We were struggling for liberation. It took more than 20 years. We are now struggling to build our country, and we decide who can manage according to the assessment we make of our people. The assessment of our party is that some of the old guard should continue helping as the new ones come up.
You have joined the League of Africa's longest serving leaders, and this is something you criticized when you came to power. Do you ever see yourself retiring anytime soon?
Well, certainly I will retire. I will retire, I wouldn't say soon, but I'm looking forward to retirement. The main point is, how will Africa transition from backwardness to modernity? I never hear you talking about that. You should be talking about that, not talking about the individuals. Talk about the process of transformation from third world to first world. You can have a multitude of individuals changing these chairs, but with no change at all.
Mr. President, your National Resistance Movement Party is run like a one-man show, not an institution. You are the NRM, and without you, some say, it's the end of the party.
Oh, they must be sick, because NRM has got 9 million members. Now, many of the things they do, I don't even know. So anybody to say that I'm running that huge organization alone must be sick in his head or her head.
Now, your opponent, one of your main opponents, Kizza Besigye of the FDC party, is threatening to carry out a parallel tallying of votes and also announce his own results. You have warned that you will arrest them if they do that. Is Uganda about to become the next Ivory Coast?
Oh no, Uganda cannot become an Ivory Coast. Uganda is a country of capable revolutionaries. You cannot have the type of paralysis you have in Ivory Coast. It will be decisive, and that will be the end. It will not even take 1 day, I can assure you of that.
But what if the opposition do not agree to the votes?
Then they got caught. They don't paralyze. They don't engage in any unconstitutional activities. If they don't agree with something, they got caught. They are not courts themselves. Besigye is not a court. What is Besigye? If he's not happy, he knows where to go.
He's been to the courts twice. Twice.
He was defeated because he was talking nonsense. And he's talking nonsense even now. So if he loses, it will be because the courts don't see what he's saying. But to say that he will set up any other process other than what is in the Constitution will not happen in Uganda.
Will you, President Yoweri Museveni, accept a win for the opposition?
Well, if they won, I would accept it. But they can't win because we are the majority. We have our membership. We are not starting politics today. We know our membership. We know how many members we have.
Mr. President, you have ruled out an Egypt-style revolution in Uganda, and you said you will arrest anyone who comes out to protest. Surely you cannot arrest thousands of people, can you?
If the revolution which happened in Egypt must have its own local characteristics. I don't know what the issues are in Egypt. I have not really studied them, especially these days. Now, I don't know whether there were groups who were excluded from competition, or if the competition itself had some problem. But in the case of Uganda, there's total freedom as to participate in the competition for office. Now, if you compete and you lose, and then you say you will take power by other means other than the election, that one will not happen here in Uganda. I can assure you of that. It will not happen, and it will not take long to sort out.
How will you sort out?
We should just arrest those people who are taking the unconstitutional road. They'll just be arrested.
But you don't have enough jails to accommodate thousands of people, do you?
Oh, no, we don't have to arrest thousands. We arrest the ringleaders. They have tried it before, by the way. They have tried those that rubbish. A revolution happens where there is conditions for it. Egypt had a revolution because the conditions must have been ripe. I don't see those conditions here.
Yeah, but Mr. President, people don't seem to trust institutions in Uganda anymore. Even the Electoral Commission that's overseeing these elections was declared incompetent by the Supreme Court, the country's highest court, after the last election in 2006. Yet, you reappointed them. Now, if you are really interested in free and fair elections, why didn't you allow the opposition to appoint a joint Electoral Commission with you?
A joint Electoral Commission of parties is not an Electoral Commission. That is an inter-party forum. Electoral Commission must be made of neutral people, not party A, party B. How about this? How about other parties? But more importantly, the principle. An Electoral Commission cannot be a bipartisan or a tripartisan organ. If it does that, then it has stopped being an Electoral Commission. It should be a neutral one.
But neutral doesn't mean those you appoint. How do you expect the opposition to accept results released by a commission they don't trust?
These people first were approved by Parliament. There is the Appointments Committee of Parliament. That Appointments Committee is comprised of members from all parties. They're the ones who approved those names in the first place.
Mr. President, your opponents say you have presided over a corrupt government and there is currently no political will to tackle it. In the past, you have taken action, but only selectively. Those close to you have not been targeted, even some of them, when they've been implicated in corruption. How would you react to that?
Well, I don't know how much you know about Uganda. Uganda is a country which had a lot of problems. Stealing your money was the least of the problems we had. Top of the list was the stealing of lives of human beings. People are being slaughtered like chicken. Destroying the economy. Destroying the animals in the national parks through poaching by soldiers. Looting people on the highways by soldiers. All these were stopped. By whom? Not by those fellows in the opposition. They were stopped by the NRM. In the same way, we stopped those extreme abuses of human rights by fighting people who had more power than this bunch of thieves. Because like the people who were killing people were in the army, they had power, they had guns, but we fought them and disbanded them. So now how can a force which did all that fail to deal with a bunch of thieves?
Have you dealt with it?
Yes, we have dealt with many of them, but the issue here is evidence. It's, you know, when you are dealing with thieves, they don't steal during the day. They steal in hidden ways. It's not as obvious as, for instance, killing a human being. You need a fresh capacity, investigation, prosecution, the judges, and we have set up special institutions for that.
So you're saying you'll deal with all corrupt people, even if they are your relatives and members of your cabinet?
Of course, of course.
You've not dealt with those who've been implicated. An example is your security minister, Amama Mbambazi, and Mr. Kotesa, one of your in-laws.
Mbabazi was being hunted. You know, some of the people are trying to use these labels for political witch hunting, actually.
So you don't believe those allegations against them?
They were just, not only I don't believe, they were clear that they were not right. All of us, it was not only me, we sat in our caucus and we didn't see the capability of Mbabazi. If somebody is serious about fighting corruption, you don't take these matters to Parliament, because Parliament doesn't have time really to, or even the expertise to deal with corruption. So that shows you that in some of these cases, people have got political motives. They just want to pass a resolution so that you are branded. Because if you're interested in real justice, then you go to the technicians of justice, who are the judges.
Mr. President, let's talk about the oil that Uganda recently discovered. You have said in the past that Uganda's oil resources cannot be managed by the opposition, and some say that is why you're clinging on to power. How do you react to that?
Well, my dear friend, first of all, if you want to accuse me of clinging, accuse me of clinging to the resistance, because I spent 20 years in the resistance. So what power was I clinging to? I was clinging to risks. Now, the resistance produced victory. Victory which we are using to build Uganda. So please, don't mix us up with those people of yours who power, what. We are on a mission. Liberate the country, build it up to a certain stage. Not only build Uganda, but also, if possible, build Africa.
What truth is there in saying, for example, that you're there to see Uganda through an oil boom?
First of all, oil has just come now. When we were fighting, we didn't know there was oil in the ground. And even when we were in the government, at the beginning, we got some indications, and we started building the capacity to look for that oil. But even if we are not found the oil, the transformation of Uganda would continue. So oil is just for tweeters, just chance. It cannot be. It could not have been part of our calculation. Our calculation was to build Uganda using whatever resources they were available, and there are resources which are more important than oil in Uganda. The human resource is the most important, more important than oil, because that is also part of the confusion of some of your questions. Why do you think oil is more important than the human beings? Japan doesn't have oil, but it is richer than these oil sheikdoms. Why? The human resource is the most important. There are a lot of ideological confusions in some of your questions, obviously. So why do you get fixation on oil and all this? We are not in that crowd of people.
Let's move on to an issue that has raised an international outcry as well, the anti-homosexuality bill. What will happen to that after the elections? Is it going to continue? Will it be passed into law?
We are trying to discuss with our people because, these are all provocations from some of the groups outside. The African people have their own history and culture. Africans regard homosexuality as not normal, as a deviation from normal. Now, the Europeans say homosexuals are an alternative way of life. Now, we have not met to discuss all this. I have not been called to any conference, international conference, to discuss this question. But you can see where the potential conflict is. Okay, so in your own country, America or wherever, you are convinced that the way you think is the right way. Then there's some other group of people, some Africans, those people with a dark color, you must have heard about them. They believe that this is not a normal way of life. So homosexuals here will not be persecuted. But for those groups who come and provoke our people, they should also restrain themselves. Our philosophy here is live and let live. Don't provoke.
Mr. President, let's talk about Somalia. You have 8,000 troops in Somalia, or nearly 8,000 troops in Somalia. This was supposed to be a Pan-African peacekeeping initiative under the AU. So far, it's only your forces and only Burundi who are inside Somalia. Do you feel that you've been left holding the candle by the rest of African countries?
Well, that's not new. That's not new because that is the history of the resistance in Africa. If I get an umbrella blessing from the whole of Africa, because they have passed the resolutions, say Africa should go there, should come in. Even if they don't come, because they have given the blessing, those who feel strong enough about it should come and help. That's what happened with the liberation of Southern Africa. That's what happened with the defeat of Idi Amin here. Everybody was condemning Idi Amin, but few did anything. But Tanzania took the lead, and we moved. In the case of genocide in Rwanda, Uganda took the lead. And that's how we, working with the RPF, the Rwanda political organization, that's how the genocide was stopped. So there's nothing new in that. Blessing by the whole of Africa, but actual action by some few. That's good enough for me.
Now, your forces in Somalia have been variously accused of shelling civilian areas, particularly the Bakara market, where they have easily killed hundreds, if not thousands. Are you aware of this?
Why would anybody who is not a criminal share an adversary? Because we are belligerents, we are at war now. Started by those Al-Shabaab, they're the ones who attacked us. For us, we went there on an African mission. We don't have a border with Somalia. We don't have any interest in Somalia. The only interest we have is a Pan-African interest. Africa wanted a force and we provided it. We are there on the African mission and these people fire at us. Fire at us, attack us. Now, when they fire, we locate where they are firing from. If it is true that there are civilians in the sites where they shell from, so who is the criminal now?
Mr. President, I hope you're not justifying the killing of civilians by your forces in Somalia.
No. I'm not justifying the killing of civilians. But why should a belligerent, if the civilians are there, fire from a populated area? In many of these places, there are no civilians. They have run away.
But the Bakara market, where most of the people of Mogadishu get their foodstuff, has been attacked dozens of times by your forces.
Does somebody fire from there
They might.
Now,
they're your enemies.
That one I have to study. If they are firing from a populated area, which our people know to be populated, and then they respond, that one I would object to.
Some say that by taking your forces to Somalia, you are serving errands. You're running errands for outside forces, foreign forces who do not want an Islamist state to be established in Somalia.
When did Islamic extremism become part of the African heritage? I am on an African program. The Somali government broke up many years ago. The state collapsed. Now, people living in a collapsed state for so long is really a form of genocide. If these groups are really patriots, why don't they cooperate with the region, have a transitional period without disruption, go for elections, and then if they're elected, become the rulers, the leaders of Somalia? Why don't they want a peaceful transition? And how is Middle Eastern extremism part of the African heritage? So who is the agent? Are they not the agents of foreign interests? Certainly, me, I have not changed my position.
Now, the priorities for maintaining peace and security in Somalia is said to be upside down. Your forces are taking home up to €1,000 to $1,500 every month, while Somalia's fledgling military officers do not get any salary sometimes. Now, you don't expect to continue shoring up support for the government forever, especially a government that doesn't have legitimacy in the eyes of most Somalis.
If we had the money, we would help to pay them. But we depend on the contributions from different people. So that's good. That's not a good formula. The Somali soldiers should be paid. And I think they are being paid somehow. I don't know how much.
Not regularly at all.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to the country, Mr. President. I have worked there and I've traveled widely in Somalia. Your forces are not being viewed kindly by many Somalis because of shoring up support for a government that doesn't have legitimacy in front of most Somalis.
What has got legitimacy? This is Al-Shabaab. What has got legitimacy? Which group has got legitimacy?
But instead of supporting one group which doesn't have legitimacy, why don't you come up with a new venture for Somalia and bring the country to peace? As a Pan-Africanist, as you confessed yourself.
The politics has not been our mandate. Our mandate has been to guard points, really. And if those groups were serious, they would not have been involved in a fight with us. Because for us, we didn't go out. Africa said, you guard this airport, we guarded it. You guard the port, we guarded it. You guard this point, we guarded it. Then these people came to attack us.
In the eyes of Somalis, you have taken sides.
No, which sides? The transitional government was not put together by us. It was put together by the whole region. And if they think we have taken sides, why don't they approach us and we discuss it? Why don't they come and discuss with us?
Mr. President, are you thinking of withdrawing your forces from Somalia anytime soon?
No, unless we are asked by the African Union to do so. We can't do it to abandon. There are something like almost 3 million people in the area, this area where we are. And these people are getting medical care, they are what? Now to abandon them is morally unacceptable. No way.
Thank you very much, President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, for talking to Al Jazeera. And thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.